Hello and welcome to the SLO City Together Podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Gallagher, here
I'm the sidekick, Brent Bramer. It is a little overcast, bits of sun. June 2nd, we are in the month of June. It's going to be a warm one today. And we are in the
weather report.
Weather report.
Thank you.
And this is the podcast where strangers become friends.
Yeah.
Friends become family.
Yeah.
So, Jordan?
Yep. Is it overcast in your heart or is it sunny?
What would an overcast heart look like to you?
Oh, cloudy.
Well, like what would that mean?
That's up to your interpretation.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. It's crazy. I think I've been I think the word would be really heavy.
Yeah, me too.
You know, the word we used Sunday was outraged, distressed, sorrowful, heartbroken over not just over what our country's going through now, but like what has been continued to be revealed and highlighted around the country and in us. And I think what we can talk about what's happening, but I think what's been most bothersome to me, oh man, is kind of like I want to say the feelings of anger at those who are expressing anger. Like what I've seen of like there's been a lot of remorse, there's been a lot of Instagram and Facebook posts.
Right.
But sometimes in conversation with people, yeah.
That's what's been the most. Say that part again.
So like almost like an annoyance. Yeah. Like I want to make sure that our church and our people, this collection of people, does not respond with I'm angry at the response.
Right.
Like even though like there's some things that you're like, man, I wish there was no looting or
rioting, and your heart hurts for those people who are affected by that. But that does go without saying. I think, and that's one of my big things in a lot of areas of life is like there are some things that people don't need us to remind them that I believe or think. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's some things like that are better left just unsaid because of course your heart hurts for somebody who's caught in the middle of something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, just don't say it.
I know.
Just don't say it.
I know.
Especially to somebody who's actively hurting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
So it's a heavy time. It's a heavy time. I mean, you turn on the news and you just see you see hurt and heartache and division and hatred and opinions and explanations, and it's an important, and I think like for us it's an important time as the church to respond, to not just like watch another thing happen, to watch another life taken, to watch another building burn, to watch another life become undone at the hands of injustice, a wrong being done, and just to say like, well, I mean, like the world's a broken place,
right?
You know, but like actually, you know, my wife said last night, she's like, I'm all about posting things on Facebook to bring awareness, but like, what actually changes the heart?
Right.
What actually changes our heart? And what do we what is the hard work that we need to do?
Right.
You know? And
it's like I do feel shameful of this, but like this is by far the most active I've been in educating myself and actively and proactively thinking about how to talk to my kids. And like I should have done that sooner. But this I don't know if it's I don't know what all plays into that, but I'm just more aware than I've ever been.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Of aware of what?
My shortcomings, my subconscious biases, I'm sure that were ingrained in me from child, you know, and like just I'm seeing more things that I'm going, oh man, that's not right. That's not right. And it's, you see the post with, I don't know how to explain it other than the triangle.
Pyramid,
yeah, the pyramid. And it's like I'm more cognizant of that kind of stuff than ever before, and more sensitive to it, which is good. I want to be cognizant of that, but yeah, it feels a little shameful and guilty that I haven't before, to this degree. But all we can do is take this moment forward.
Yeah,
like there's no going backward and going, well, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
And I don't want to like rush to prescriptions because I'm still in that deconstruction too.
My goodness, yeah.
But I do think it's important to like make sure you're listening to a wide audience of voices. When we talk about racism and injustice and prejudice and discrimination and systematic, wrongdoings, I think it's important to not isolate ourselves. And this doesn't mean that there's like no truth and all those things.
Right.
But like to not isolate ourselves with the same voices, the same thing, but like have the ability or grow the ability to listen without growing defensive.
Right.
Listen to different voices, Black voices, Latino voices, white voices, like Asian American voices, going to the protest, the rally, the other, we didn't follow them onto the highway, but we were down at the park, and just to be there and listen and to watch. We had our kids with us, and we had a conversation. I had some family members in Kentucky who were appalled that I would go, and I want to be you want to be careful, I guess, of what but at the same time, I'm there to like stand with people who have experienced something that I've never experienced.
Yeah.
And if my presence there is appalling to you, why?
Yeah, if my presence at a rally to celebrate and defend the equality of all life is offensive to you, oh well. That's what that was.
And of course, people are going to share opinions or thoughts about people or say things that you're like, that was really harsh. But man, they feel that. They feel that way. And I've got to choose to decide whether I ignore other people's emotions, feelings, or if I actually can have the ability to listen, to not feel like you're picking on me and worry about myself. That was Jesus always emptied himself to stand between the people picking up rocks and those who were cowered in the dirt. He always stood in the gap and stood there and fought for the vilified.
Right.
I don't know.
And honestly, so I've always really, really, really tried to have empathy for everyone. I try
step in
to understand and take a step into what they're experiencing. And more than ever, I'm realizing, most likely as a result of my privilege and never having anything close, the inability. Not in a way that makes me hardened, but like makes me feel exhausted. Like I can't even imagine experiencing the things that so many people have experienced that are leading to these kind of reactions, and it's like,
and we get it when we talk about like, if you were like abused as a kid.
Yeah.
So like if you were abused as a kid and somebody who hasn't experienced that, or somebody who's experienced a death, Jordan Rice, my friend, talks about the death of his wife and people who he just had a really hard time like resonating with people who didn't lose a wife and were a widower, who were, is that right?
Yeah.
Widower.
Widower.
And so, but like in the same respect, it is impossible for me as a white middle class person.
Yeah.
Even though I grew up with friends of color, I grew up with several friends of color, lived in very diverse areas, and have varied experiences. That isn't me trying to like puff myself up.
Right.
But like
saying even still,
I didn't live in the projects.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't live in that neighborhood. I didn't experience the profiling.
Mm-hmm.
My son, we talked about this last night. My son I have a good friend who we may or may not have the opportunity to interview this week, who lived in Memphis. And he tells stories of his life growing up in Memphis as a young black boy, of great family, healthy, God-fearing, Jesus-loving family, would get pulled over regularly, and he would be often threatened. And that was just a picture of the reality of, I don't know. And so I've never felt that.
Right.
My son will never feel that.
Yeah.
You know? And so I just think it's important to stop, you know, and to reflect and listen. And I appreciate your vulnerability in that, and saying, like, I don't know how to empathize.
Yeah.
And maybe that, as a church, just talking out loud and verbally processing, how do you think we lead in this time? Because leading is not just waiting for this to pass.
Right.
And I think that's the tension, you know, we feel of, like, we want to make sure we see this fully and we feel it, and then we don't rush out of the emotion, or we don't ask all of our friends of color, like, okay, what do we do? Because we don't want to feel this guilt and this, we don't want to feel like all this stuff. So what do we do? So how do you think as a church we respond to what's happening around us, in us?
Yeah. Well, you know, hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
Well, no, but that's not true. Because we do speak out when these tragic things happen. I would say the church as a whole can't respond when looting and rioting starts, but not when unjust murder happens. You know, and that's not true of us. I believe that. We spoke up, but you know, that's a lesson of leadership that hopefully has been learned. You know, that you can't prioritize things and material damage over.
Did you see what Jordan Rice
loss
shared
of
there?
life?
Yeah.
Did he share something similar?
He said America has always been more consumed with, what did he say? With materials than people.
Yeah.
You know, like property.
Yeah.
Than people.
Yeah.
So we often treat people like property. You know, like so. I think it'd be really, really good for us to probably enter into a conversation of awareness and acknowledgement and empathy. I think empathy is a big empathy that leads to action, right?
Right.
Because let's be real, we live in a very relatively white area. You know, it's not as diverse as people would like.
Right.
And so I think it's important that we can lead in this conversation, and the church can be a part of the conversation. You don't have to feel uncomfortable. But, you know, I had a conversation with somebody this past week that, who said, man, like, this just points our need. This is not a white person, but this just reveals our need for Jesus, who is our peace, who bridges divides, who, you know, because it's a heart deal, it's a sin deal, this is a systematic deal that cannot just be undone by telling people to stop.
Right.
There's got to be self-reflection, and in that, I think we pray that Jesus meets us in it. So, yeah.
And I will let me circle back.
Okay.
I will offer myself some grace that hopefully, by way of my own self-reflection, offers other people grace. Because empathy is not about actually fully understanding and stepping into somebody's literal experience 100%.
Yeah.
It's the act of trying. You know, it's the act of attempting that. So if you're a person who is similar to me and feeling like, man, I'm trying, I just, like, I feel like I'm, like, I don't understand I can't fully embody all the pain. And it's like, well, it's the act of trying. Yeah. You know, and trying to do that. That's probably where the power lies. But man, it's confusing. This is disorienting and heartbreaking and
And I don't want to, like, I can easily, you know, turn a corner and say, but it does. It makes me think about Jesus always, right? Because he stands in the middle of this. You know, there's Rome and there's oppression and there's Jews and Gentiles and Samaritans and lepers and prostitutes and tax collectors. And Jesus stands in the middle of all of this and lives out grace. And I'm not trying to plug church or anything like that, but he lives it out. And like, if there is a way forward, for us, it has to be a way of a continued recognizing our need and coming to Jesus and saying, give me a clean heart, like clean me out, like refine me, expose me, like, and help me to not just build my own little kingdom on my own hill, on my own mountain, and claim God's blessings, but refuse to extend them. I just think, I actually, we planned this Grace is Greater Than series a long time ago, and I feel like it's really fitting for where we are. And it seems sometimes, this is a tension we've talked about, but to tell people to like live in grace when they are experiencing anger and fear and righteous anger seems insensitive to like as at a topical level of like grace is greater than bitterness.
Right.
But that's not minimizing your bitterness. That's not minimizing your anger.
No.
But so it's just been this really weird tension. Yeah, it's really weird tension that we've kind of walked through. So
yeah.
So yeah.
This is tough.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here?
You're preaching in 2 weeks. You want to talk to us about what you're thinking? Oh,
yeah. So we're starting a new series on Philippians.
What are we calling it? Rethink or relearn?
Man, I should have come more prepared for that.
Maybe rethink, relearn.
You asked me yesterday.
Rejudge.
Redo.
Restart.
I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, really, a unique letter of Paul, a unique book of the Bible that is pretty thoroughly celebratory.
Yes.
And not correctional. But I mean, one of the, I think, coolest things about the letters of Paul is when you can like teleport back to Acts and see the culture and city that he's writing into. And so that's been fun to look into and kind of get a feel for what it was like for Paul to, plant this church in Philippi and then 10 plus years later write this letter to them that's like celebrating the good stuff that's going on and giving them encouragement. So a lot of talk about joy. So this will be a chance for us to kind of reframe the idea of joy.
Yeah.
Because I think in some ways it's been hijacked by simplicity and songwriting and, like
Christmas carols.
Christmas carols and
Christmas cards.
Stuff like that. And so be a chance for us to examine what biblical joy is, but also through the lens of what Paul was experiencing and what the Philippians were experiencing. So I think it'll be I'm
excited.
Powerful. Are you excited? And I think it's apropos for the time we're living in.
Apropos.
Because, spoiler alert, we're going to discover that joy isn't really connected at all to happiness,
Don't tell us that.
Yeah, okay.
Don't spoil it.
I'll take that back.
Yeah. I'm excited, man. I really am. I'm excited for you to preach and teach. And
it's been a while,
you're
man.
A wise guy.
It's been a while.
When was the last time?
I don't know. It's been some years now.
Okay.
It's been some years.
Who did you preach like for a student ministry or for?
Yeah. Most of my reps were in
your
student
wheelhouse
ministry.
is probably adults though.
Yeah,
probably. I think you think from.
I'm not a fun guy.
No, you're not at all.
I'm not a fun. I'm not a fun person. So.
Fun guy. Okay. Hey, we usually do this on Monday, but anything you're taking away from Sunday from worshiping together? You can't you're not good at pulling it up on the spot.
I am not good. I have a terrible memory. I have to look at sermon text. That's not true.
Unmerciful servant.
Yeah.
Bitterness and prison's life.
We've talked a lot about. Well, I have talked with you and others about the power of that parable in my life over the past year, and so I have had no shortage of time spent thinking about and pondering that specific parable. But it's powerful. Yeah. I mean, I think I experienced firsthand the role that giving grace played in receiving grace and in receiving. I told you Friday right before you preached. I think that Nelson Mandela quote. Yeah. I mean, that is like dead on resentment is like, or bitterness, or one or the other.
Resentment is like drinking poison, letting the other waiting for the other person to die.
Yeah, because I was experiencing that.
Oh man, I'd have too. I think I shared through that moment with my parents where nobody picked me up.
Yeah,
and that was tip of the iceberg, of like the pain and woundedness of that season. And I remember most of my adult life like just being bitter and angry and resentful, and then it would drive me to like manipulate and like wait for I'm gonna pit this against you so that you feel bad and want to be around me or ask for forgiveness. And it never came, and I was living in that constant tension.
You know what was curious to me? Maybe we can talk about this for just a minute.
What?
So, we both come from divorced households.
Yes.
But our experiences are different because, and honestly, it feels weird saying this, I've always been thankful for my situation, and this sounds horrible.
Yeah.
Because I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio area. My parents divorced, and my dad moved to Dallas right away. So I didn't have the experience of back and forth, of that tension, of like the things you're experiencing that can only happen when your broken family lives in the same city, Yeah. And so now I'm sure there were things about my situation that were.
Well, how old were you?
I was in 6th grade, I think.
Oh, wow.
5th grade, 6th grade.
Wow.
And so I've always been
really
they're having a good time
outside.
out there. Yeah, I've thought about that because I avoided a lot of that I'm sure is really hard for kids to be split back and forth and going, okay, I'm at dad's, now I'm at mom's, because that's a different kind of challenge and a different kind of pain. Now, I felt probably a more
deep
total disconnection because of the crazy distance, and so I'm sure
there's things in there that
I'm sure that has its own set of struggles, but I've always been drawn to that kind of thought because
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just know, again, it's hard to like say like, I think if my dad just would have left, that would have been harder.
You think?
But I think, I was the oldest and trying to like go back and forth between, like, kind of be a peacemaker in the middle of it. And so peacemaking turned into like, tiptoeing.
That ain't a word.
Tiptoeing. Dancing on, like figuring out like, walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, is everybody feeling okay? Is everybody feeling good? Like, who's mad at me? Who's mad at her? Who's mad at
that would have been torture for me.
And then when my brother's upset, when my sister's upset, like, then you're like, oh man, they're making everybody upset. This is upset, and then I'm angry. Then it's just this swarm of, trying to be a good person and trying to navigate that. So I don't know, man. Like, I do think, I hate that for you, right? Because you just had to. It was like grieving a loss that it was a different level or loss, but it's relative. Everything's relative to the individual.
And so I guess I've always wondered because I have never struggled with a ton of bitterness wrapped up in divorce, but I don't know if that's because he moved away and so it was like it was different, or if there are just so many factors that who knows why I've never struggled with that bitterness. I don't know.
Were you blindsided by it?
No.
Okay. See, I was kind of blindsided.
We were blindsided by the news that it was like official. I think there was like I mean, we were young, but like we knew
constant
we
turmoil.
knew that it was not. Yeah, we knew it was. It
was weird to begin
with. It was
with.
not okay.
Yeah,
and so, I mean, I think you're always surprised when they tell you.
Yeah,
but
I think I was completely shocked.
Really?
Yeah, and maybe some of that trauma or
led to the bitterness. Because you felt deceived.
Led to trying to fix it.
Yeah,
I remember being on picking up the phone and listening to their conversation so that I could try and fix it. And it's like, man, that's as a kid when you're listening to some of those things live with you. So it was a weird thing.
That's tough.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think part of it was the ongoing, and this is hard to say. It wasn't like someone left once and never came back.
Right.
It was like a
continual leaving.
Yeah. Until there's some reconciliation, because I feel like I can't. Yeah, there's a little. Yeah. In my maturing and growth, I think I've seen like the opportunity I have to bring life into that relationship.
Right.
And it's still like there's sometimes a continual leaving.
Yeah.
Still to this day. And I think, Kyle Idleman said something in either his book or one of his sermons that he said, grace is the way of pain. Like grace is almost inviting pain into your life.
Sends you toward pain.
Yeah.
Like dealing with it? Is that what the
not
meaning
necessarily
of that is?
Dealing with it, but like grace doesn't always make things right.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it cancels the debt. Like, right. So the king took on, in our parable, the king took on the debt, canceled the debt, and there was a cost to him.
Right. That doesn't mean it disappears. That's what Jordan says. And you know, he talked about that in a sermon I listened to recently. But
doesn't mean the pain goes away.
Poof. It's like, no, you eat it.
Yeah, it's like I take it on. Like, and we see that in Jesus. Like, he took on pain. Not like took on pain to make no pain happen ever again, but he like experienced the weight of my debt.
Yeah.
And I think the way of Jesus is often putting, historically, I think in America, there's been this health and wealth movement where it's like, throw blessings up and blessings are going to come down.
Right.
Or you're going to walk in prosperity your whole life if you follow Jesus. And
until you experience
following Jesus is sometimes the opposite.
Yeah.
Because it's messy and it's hard and you're in the midst of conflict, trying to be a bridge builder, a peacemaker, a follower of Jesus. You're a grace giver.
Right.
You're giving all of these things and you're not doing it to receive.
Right.
It's
full circle,
hard.
Man.
Yeah. So
back to the beginning.
So.
Well, encouragements. Keep praying for everyone.
Yeah, I think everyone. We have, I think pray for protesters. Pray for those really. Pray for towards injustices. Pray for police officers. Pray for family members. Pray for
bigots and racists.
Yeah, like we need a radical like redirection of our hearts, and I think like. Yeah, I'm really wrestling. You can pray for us, like to handle this conversation with wisdom and grace, because I never want to come across in a place of pride, because I don't know a lot of these things. I don't, like you don't. Right? You're smarter than me. But like I like you said, like it, like so as a church, like to say, okay, God, like would you speak in this? And I don't want to just come up with some buzz phrase or buzzword or
say same with
like, hey, here's the prescription.
My perceived failure of empathy. Like I don't want to say like we get what you're feeling when we just don't.
Yeah,
we just don't.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you can say I'm with you, and that can be true.
Yeah,
you can say but we just.
I think
we've said Jordan Rice
a
bunch of times.
Yeah,
but like. His wife passed away, and you go, man, I get your pain. No,
you don't.
No, and that's okay that you don't get my pain.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm feeling now. It's like,
or
no,
give
a
reason of like,
my cat died when I was little, so I get it. Or is that what you're getting at? Like, try to contextualize.
Or like when Jenna and I experienced a miscarriage, we can talk about this some, but somebody said, it wasn't your time to have a baby. I'm like, oh my
crap
gosh.
Out of here.
I'm like, I'll tell you what, I want to punch you in the forehead.
Right. Right.
So, so we're praying. We are definitely like, if you are not praying right now, why not?
Yeah.
And if your eyes have not been drawn more to Jesus, like I'd say, turn off your devices.
Right.
And turn to Jesus. I'd say step into conversations where you listen before you speak.
Right.
And step into that. So we are in this together, and that means we mourn with those who mourn. We grieve with those who grieve. We put our hands to mercy. We seek to bring and make peace. And that doesn't mean ignoring things and just,
That doesn't mean quiet voices.
Yeah.
That means the world as it should be.
Yeah. And stepping into real, I mean, you think about, we can talk about, we just keep going. So
Yep.
We can spin around.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Be praying. We're praying. We love you.
We love you.
We'll talk to
Hey,
you soon.
we're going to do a popsicle night next Tuesday night. Not to turn the corner there, but we'd love to see your face. It's a reason to see each other and be together. We might, I haven't talked to you about this, but we may or may not do like a prayer night, little prayer, like no singing, but worship music playing and just come into the space and pray. I think that might be necessary or a cool opportunity. So we'll share it on the platforms.
Great.
Have a great day.
Love you. Peace.